So after graduation, it was, I think headwinds in the U.S. in terms of finding a job. And I was given very good guidance by a family friend who was actually deputy finance minister in Singapore. And he said, Jang, Christine, go into banking, go into corporate banking, and that will give you a little bit of a landscape in terms of the different aspects of banking. So hence that journey. I worked in Thailand for 8 years and then had a goal to move into a regional hub. So worked in Hong Kong for 8, and now I'm back in Singapore, another regional hub for the last 11 years. A bit of background in terms of, I think, fun facts. So banking's been my heart and core of the industry, but we've also transformed in the fintech industry. So we consider ourselves as a technology company supporting financial services. So very common themes here in terms of fintech. Now on fun facts, and I'm actually going to open up a little bit more. I grew up with a very mixed religious background. My grandmother was a staunch Buddhist. I went to a Catholic school. My dad was a Catholic. But my mom and I are actually Hindu by religious faith. And I do have a spiritual leader. That's why I know Chennai very well in Bangalore. And every so often I will actually do a spiritual retreat to Puthapati. So I think you might be able to guess where my faith is. But that's just a little bit of fun fact that's not on LinkedIn.
Fabulous story, Jang. Thank you for sharing. I love how you've got the tech and the background in accounting and customer service from your early youth days that have served you well, I think, in your career. I love the spiritual side too. It gives you a very human element. Last but not least, from Swift, Niha, do you want to share your career journey and a fun fact with us?
Sure. Thanks so much, Kristy, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Niharika, and I am working with Swift as a director India and country manager Sri Lanka and Maldives. I've been part of financial industry for quite some time now, and I've worked across industries like insurance, fintech, global MTO, and now with Swift. Largely, I look at customer acquisition, alliances, and partnership. I work very closely with the other support teams like tech operations, etc. But largely, my domain is into business development. I was just thinking when Rajsri and Christine were talking about their journey as a child and, the countries and the cities they grew up in. I was primarily brought up in India, but across the country. So my dad was in Indian Forest Service, and I got a chance to, live. By the way, I have changed, I think, at least 10 to 11 schools in my childhood, because every 2-3 years, dad would get posted in some new place. But I think I was very, very fortunate to be in places and be surrounded by nature all the time, something that I took for granted as a kid. But now when we live in metro cities and finding greenery and, wildlife it's almost something like a dream. I remember my days growing up in forest colonies, forest departments, where it was such a pleasure. You get a chance to, grow up with people from different culture. Your neighbor might be from South India, Northeast. You as a kid, you make friends from all sort of, background. In school, you meet friends every, 2-3 years. You get a chance to make new friends. Some of the things that I took as a disadvantage, or I thought were a downfall, when I look back now, I think there was I was very fortunate to actually get that kind of an upbringing and background. So that's a bit about it. And, as Rashi was just mentioning that she is an accidental engineer, I want to say that I am someone who accidentally landed up in financial industry. So I am a computer science engineer, and then I did my master in marketing from Indian Institute of Management. Somehow landed in financial industry without knowing anything about it. But now that I'm here, I think there's no other way I would have liked it. And I joined here, and then I stayed in financial industry for all these years. A bit of a fun fact, it's not as funny as what Rashi and the exciting part that Christine highlighted. So apart from work, I really enjoy, I'm a yoga enthusiast, and I look for opportunities for going for yoga retreat for a couple of days, taking off from work and exploring different forms of yoga. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Great story. Thank you so much for sharing. We've got such fabulous experience and diverse backgrounds and careers on the panel here today. Just a little bit about myself. I tell people that I'm an engineer by training, a banker by trade, and a payments geek by nature. And now I'm running this funny thing called Women in Payments, which I started on the side of my desk as I was consulting in this market 13 years ago. And we have grown from a small organization that runs conferences in Canada to an organization that's larger, still small by comparison to some of the organizations that we see here today. But we run conferences and career development programs for women around the world of payments. We have a physical presence in Canada, in the US, in Australia, in Singapore, in EMEA, as well as LATAM. We run mentorship programs, we run leadership programs, we run weekly networking events, we run award programs, and if it weren't for the likes of the many organizations who sponsor us and support us, JP Morgan, FIS, SWIFT are some of those leaders, we couldn't do what we do. And I feel passionately about the fact that we do need more women in fintech and financial services, because more often than not, at least half of our clients are women. So we want to understand all about, you know, the customer journey and our stakeholders. So women are very good at helping us understand that part of our client base. So to kick off the discussion, I want to do a quick poll of the audience. When we're talking about disruption in the market, one of the big things that's disrupted all of us without fail is the recent pandemic. And I think it's changed the way that we work for many people in many different ways. So quick show of hands. Your current work environment. Put up your hand if you work only from a home office, 5 days a week. 2 out of the so thank you. 3. Okay. And what if you work only from an office at work? Oh, 10 or 15, very good. And what about hybrid? Yeah, I'd say 2/3. Okay, so we have a few people working from home only. We have a few people working from an office only, and I would say the majority working in a hybrid environment. So first question for my panel. Given today's disruptive environment, working from home, the office, hybrid, it seems that we are literally all over the map. As a leader, how do you navigate the challenges around recruiting, managing, and developing talent in this all over the map kind of environment? Do you want to start us off, Jang?
Sure, delighted to, Kristy. So again, COVID has really triggered for the firm and, you know, us as individuals to adapt to the new approaches. And so during COVID, we've actually triggered the ability to have 250,000 employees move into a hybrid or work from home environment. And the enabler, of course, was the technology that allow everybody to be efficient and facilitate, you know, our daily lives and work lives across the globe. So that's exciting. It's actually allowed us now to also be able to, you know, be more manageable in our own schedules as to whether we want to work from home or come to the office. Firm-wide, I think we're encouraging everyone to come back. It's more about collaboration and ability to exchange ideas in person. However, I think we've been very flexible from a manager standpoint to allow for teams to be to accommodate in terms of the need to work from home from time to time as well, and myself inclusive. So we've actually transformed the ability to recruit. We've gone into a lot of technology in terms of screening candidates, in terms of application online, and then having tools to actually assess the candidates as they progress through the interview process. And some of this could be analytics, personality assessments, as well as you know, the ability to attest in terms of coding, for example, in terms of skill set as well. So that's one piece of it. The second piece is actually we've also navigated, whether it's virtual or e-Zoom or Microsoft Teams, in terms of engaging both internally within our employees and as well as externally with our clients. And ability to have virtual presentations, project management, and leveraging on technology to facilitate all of that. So second, I think, Kristy, you highlighted in terms of how you actually managed such a diverse team through that pandemic. And it's really about securing, the ability to have empathy as well as staying connected with your teams, being understanding of individual needs and family needs, as well as ability to help motivate your teams to excel, and that's quite critical. We're very diverse as an organization, so appreciating everyone's culture and beliefs and having the variety of differences in opinion is what's instrumental for a company to actually excel and serve our clients at the end of the day. And last but not least, the philosophy in terms of investing in recruiting. So we've also gone outreach to very young levels of university, gone into philanthropies in terms of identifying talent from underprivileged children around the communities. And last but not least, I think having ability to have younger kids come into our environment and help them to mentor, train, and have experience in the banking sector is quite important for us as well. So we do that quite extensively in Singapore.
Multifaceted approach. Thanks so much for sharing. Neha, do you want to talk a little bit about your approach to engaging, recruiting, and developing talent?
Sure, and I think with the show of hand, we clearly know what's winning. So, including three of us, we work in a hybrid setup. And I think that brings up the best of both worlds. So, while, and as Jane also highlighted, that it is important for collaboration that we are physically there at times in office and, there's exchange of energy and vibe and things do get a little eased out. But at the same time, we know the flexibility and the benefit that working from home or working remotely brings in, right? So I think a hybrid model definitely works very well. And we at Swift also follow, we are there in office 2 days a week, but we are quite flexible with what those 2 days are going to be. So one can choose from, the week when they want to be in office. And I think the other thing is that while there are certain challenges and I would say downside of not having people physically in office all the time, but with COVID, and as the fellow panelists have also highlighted, that we are connected through the through the internet almost all time during the day, right? So a lot of things get eased out. What we need to ensure is that there are right things set up. So firstly, there is trust, there is self-discipline. So even if one is working remotely, there's self-discipline. Secondly, there are processes that are clear and are in place. There's a better tracking mechanism so that you know the input and the outcome. You can measure the output. And thirdly, it's important to engage with your team members, be it your manager or your subordinates. It's important to engage with them in a timely manner. So I think frequent catch-ups are very beneficial because that way you can exchange ideas. If you have problems, you can highlight at the same time rather than waiting for the other person to be in office and then speaking to them face to face. So I think that in today's world, a hybrid model or a permanent work from home kind of a model has really been successful. And while I understand that there are still few companies or probably still few profiles that require one to be in office mandatory, but I think largely for the rest of the crowd, it's quite manageable to work in a hybrid model. So that's what we follow at Swift, and these are some of the thoughts that I think should be essential for such kind of a setup.
Some great best practices there. Thanks so much. As a leader, Rajsri, how do you navigate the challenges around recruiting, managing, and developing talent?
Thanks, Kristy. I think Christine and Niharika covered, what most organizations do to support a hybrid work environment very well. But I'll tell you what, as a senior leader, I do prepare the agenda for our board meetings quite often. And in the last several quarters, there are two topics that always appear on the board agenda. One is security, cyber security to be precise, and the next is talent. everything has gone digital these days, right? I mean, right from entertainment is digital, finance is digital, your shopping is digital, and there is a huge need for digital talent. So for companies, especially fintechs like us, for them to be relevant in the years to come, I mean, it is very, very important to reimagine the talent strategy. How to engage with the associates in a hybrid model. Like I guess Kristy and Niharika covered so well. But one thing that I wanted to highlight is, I mean, there is a lot of difference in the way that employees are looking at their work pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, right? I mean, pre-pandemic, maybe we can say people worked for salary or compensation, but now people work for value, right? They are looking for, the quality of work, the environment, that they work, the support that they get from their managers and peer groups, how inclusive and diverse the environment is. Can they really get flexible policies that keeps the experience of the employees at the center or as the focus? So there is a lot of difference in the way we need to engage with people or with our employees these days. And we see this change pronounced in the newer generation that is coming into the workforce, right? I mean, for them, it is very, very important for them, to add a lot of value to themselves and to the organization. I mean, are we providing an atmosphere where they can learn? Are we providing an atmosphere where career development does not mean a vertical progression? It was a vertical progression pre-pandemic, right? I mean, people looked at career growth when they get promoted, in the job that they do from one level to another. But now people are very okay to look at a lateral progression, right? They are very open to move, say, from an engineer to a product manager or a tester, to a project management or anything else. So our talent strategies need to encompass, or rather address all these multiple dimensions that have now added to our challenges when we are managing talent. So, I mean, our recruitment is anyway, as Christine said, has gone low touch or no touch thanks to technology. But again, career development and growing talent, we are looking at all aspects, right? I mean, how can we make our employees feel valued? How can we give them a consummate learning and not something that is very, very focused to their area of expertise or to the job family that they are attached with? So I guess a 360-degree development is the key. And our new gen workforce, is really keeping us on our toes as far as the leadership is concerned.
All great points. Thanks so much, Rajsri. I love that, focusing on value for our clients, or our people, our talent, not only on the recruitment side, but throughout the whole career journey. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about fintech and women. And I think everybody understands why it's important, but how do we do it? And that's, to me, part of the secret sauce is how do we get and attract more women to this fantastic industry? We all know it and love it and have enjoyed it, and it's, it's such a dynamic and exciting field, and we are lucky because we're all in it. But how do we convince the next generation of women, the young female talent, to join this industry? Do you want to start us off on that, Nihal?
So I think all of us will agree that representation of women is important across the industry, right? But fintech definitely being one of them. And I mean, if you just look at the numbers, in last 23 years, there are more than 10,000 fintech companies that have opened up in India. We stand, I think, in number 3 globally after US and UK. So clearly, this is an industry that has boomed, that has evolved rigorously in last 23 years. And in my view, having the right representation across level of women in a company, in a fintech company, or in a financial company, so to say, is that firstly, of course, they bring a different set of value on the table when being there across any level in the company. But I think the another important aspect, as per me, is that it's also important to develop or create products and services that also cater to a female customer, right? A range of female customers. And for that, it's important that we have the right set of females working in the company who can think and get aligned to that, that need, can provide their feedback, can go out in the market and listen to these female customers, and then come back and develop products and services like that. So it is definitely, I mean, there's no question whether female representation needs to be done in the fintech or the financial industry. Now, how do we do that and how important it is? I think there are various ways to do it, and one of them being providing them the right amount of flexibility, right? I think if you look at the numbers again, if you see the leakage in the pipeline, so if there were 30 to 35% female staff members that were getting recruited, say, at a entry-level kind of a job, by the time we look at the percentage in a leadership role, that number gets shrink to probably 3 or 4%. So clearly, there's a leakage in the whole pipeline from the bottom to the up leadership role. So how do we avoid that? I think that is something that one needs to think of, and this is something which is applicable in all industry, not just fintech, but more so in fintech because this is a very fast-growing and evolving industry.
Rajsri, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. So let me give you a small example. I'm sure all of you can relate to it. My mom is 77 years old, right? I mean, till pandemic, she will not let even one onion or one tomato to come into her kitchen without she actually, haggling with the vegetable vendor, taking the vegetable, ensuring that, the ripeness is correct, the color is correct, the shape is correct, the freshness is correct, etc., before she actually buys a vegetable. What happened during pandemic, right? I mean, she is now very, very comfortable ordering her vegetables online, right? I mean, the pandemic has made us unlearn a lot of things and relearn a lot of things. And I guess most of these behavioral changes are permanent or they are here to stay. Right? So if my mom is comfortable ordering via a big basket and look at the photograph of the vegetable, bring it to her kitchen, and she is comfortable returning them if she is not satisfied with the with the quality of the vegetables, what has the vegetable vendor done? Right? I mean, he does not want to lose out to the digital explosion that is happening. Now he has a QR code, correct, with which he is open to accept digital payments from his customers and consumers. So I guess these changes are permanent. So if fintech is something that needs to cater, or rather, I think that technology is something that needs to benefit the end user or the customer, and so is fintech. So whatever products or services that a fintech is supposed to or is reaching out to the market, it needs to satisfy the needs of a 77-year-old mom and a teenage daughter of mine who consumes the fintech products in a much, much different fashion, right, than us, right? So the fintech needs to ensure that the needs of all the genders are met and all the generations are met. And we can do that only if we have a good representation of these consumer segments in the fintech organization that is creating the services and products for the industry. So I guess that is why it is very, very important to have a diverse workforce. There are a lot of research studies that, that proves why diversity is very important, how it leads to a harmonious work environment, how it leads to productivity, so on and so forth. But I guess if you have to be relevant as a fintech in the market, you need to have diverse minds thinking about how to enhance or how to design those products and services for the market.
Yeah, I love that so much, especially when you think in the payments field, more than 3/4 of the payments are made by women. More than 75, 85% in some markets of payments are made by women. So we need to understand that customer journey and make sure that we're just designing products that fit that product market user profile. Jang, do you want to talk about attracting more women to fintech and how we do that?
Yes, fully agree. I think firstly, my colleagues are in this room and we're very deliberate in terms of making sure that when we're hiring and recruiting, firstly, slating is very important, and we're very deliberate about that. Secondly, we're also very deliberate about discussing our talent within the management teams across the region and across the globe. So certainly identifying good talent and ensuring them that they have the right ability and infrastructure, whether that's culture, awareness, and infrastructure to help support them succeed. Now, we're all global companies and citizens, but at the brunt of Asia taking a lot of late calls. And so when I'm leading my female talent in this region, I reinforce that you need to prioritize and you need to be able to, say no at certain times where it's not convenient for you. So having the culture and infrastructure to enable your teams to manage, lead, and deliver, that's very important. On the slating front, I highlighted earlier, we go from a very young age into the schools, universities. We've also diversified our talent, not just having finance and economics background, but as you all have demonstrated, various backgrounds, including STEM, so from young talent, science, technology, math, engineering. Those are also skill sets that we look for from a talent development standpoint. And I think Kristy mentioned, and also Niha and Rajsri, in terms of women playing a big role in terms of the purchasing power. So we've worked with a lot of financial institutions and fintech companies. So one example I'll share is actually BRAC, which is a Bangladeshi NGO. And we've engaged with them together. So they actually have a targeted women clientele segment from SMEs, retail, all the way up to corporates. And so that's quite impressive, and we actually do exchange ideas and share best practices in terms of how we can also support our banks across this region as well.
Well, I love that multifaceted approach, Jang, and clearly JP Morgan's been very successful at that, so congratulations. All right, we are starting to run out of time. We've just got 20 minutes to tie things up. Knowing how difficult it can be to support and expand our diverse workforce, how are you championing DEI in your organization today? I know, Jang, you mentioned the support especially for some of the female young talent in your organization, JP Morgan, by coaching them. That's an ongoing thing. Niha, do you want to talk a little bit about how we do that at SWIFT?
So at SWIFT currently, if you look at the numbers, so in a leadership role, close to 30% of the positions are held by women, which is, I think, much higher than the industry standard. And there is a continuous focus on improving this number further. And as Jane was also highlighting, that we need to start investing in them from the very early stage, and each of these companies have their ways of doing it. I think one thing that we realized at SWIFT is that while there are certain policies, certain guidelines that get created at a central level, at a headquarter level, but what we also need to break down is that at a regional level, how do we incorporate them? So one thing that we have done is that for our region particularly, there are a couple of things that we have rolled out and we keep monitoring them. One of them being, the KPIs are built in around diversity hiring. So there is a KPI actually for each manager across levels for the diversity hiring. And secondly, we participate a lot, or rather we, engage a lot with women organizations. So there's organization that provide probably, mentorship or guidance to women in fintech and financial industry. We partner with those organizations a lot. The other thing that we realize that while there are certain things that look good on paper, but it's important to measure them. And the best way to do that is listening to your employees, right? So while you have rolled out a couple of things, but is it really making any impact? Is it benefiting the people that you have formed it for? So I think having regular interaction, getting the right feedback from from female employees to see the impact that your initiatives have made is very, very important. And as we say, what cannot be measured, it's very difficult to manage it. So no matter how good it looks on paper, but it's actually important to have the right set of parameters and metrics to actually measure these initiatives that you're taking.
Lots going on there internally. Thank you so much for sharing. Rajsri, quickly, do you want to talk a little bit about how you champion DEI within FIS?
Yeah, thanks, Kristy. This is a passionate topic of mine. So in FIS, I am the leader of a workforce or a task force that is called Indivisible. It actually stands for Visible Inclusion and Diversity. We started it 4 years before. I mean, the same problem that Niharika just mentioned. I mean, while the gender distribution overall for FIS from an India standpoint is at around 30%. As we move to the upper hierarchies in the org structure, we find it evaporating very significantly. And at the top level, it is hardly a handful of women leaders. So which was something that was very, very embarrassing for us. So we thought, we need to come up with a task force to address that. We address it via 3 main pillars. The first pillar, we call it as retail mentoring programs, via networks, we work a lot with women in payments as well to give them that, that support, to professionally develop themselves. We have focused mentoring programs just to ensure that the women who are, slightly at the, just before the middle management layer are sufficiently supported so that they can become managers and leaders in the future. The third pillar, we call it as reinforce. This is, how can we bring more women into the workforce via the open roles that we are hiring in the market? What we do is we tie up with vendors. Some of these vendors are very focused on the second innings of women. I mean, women do take a sabbatical, after maternity, but there are a lot of them who want to rejoin the workforce. For them to, to get there, right? It is important for them to catch up on upskilling and the technology knowledge, that they might have forgotten or that needs to be refreshed when they had their maternity leave. So there are organizations that focus on the second innings of women. So we partner with them. We also ensure that when we source resumes for a particular position, at least 50-50, at least 50% of the resumes that get sourced for a position are women, just to ensure that there is a higher probability of a woman getting selected. We also ensure that when we interview for senior roles, there is a woman as part of the panel. So we truly believe that having a woman interviewer, will help, the women candidates to feel, to feel more convinced that this is a place for them, to build the next stage in their career journey. So by this, I mean, we have started taking baby steps, and it is reflected in our ESG report as well, but there is a long way to go.
But we're at least on the journey, and it's the important part is to start the journey. Jang, do you want to talk about DEI practices that you're championing at
Sure.
JP Morgan?
So very similar views and practices, but on KPIs, we're embedded as well in terms of manager, whether it's hiring, promoting, that's one. Secondly, as well, that, certainly we're looking at the return workforce as well, so that those are opportunities for the firm. We establish various business resource groups to help in that regard, from the next gen to women on the move, et cetera, et cetera. So various business resource to help support women in the workforce. And thirdly, I think by engaging with our client segments, we actually have best practice sharings across our forums and client events. We are gold sponsors for Women in Payments, and so certainly an opportunity to work and collaborate within the industry to promote DEI. And finally, I think the important thing is in looking forward, I think the fintech industry is evolving so quickly. So we do have various engagements with regards to training as well, internships and analyst programs to help ensure that the talent is actually up to speed with the new technology, new development in the financial industry.
Great synopsis. Thank you so much. All right. Sadly, we're running out of time. So I am going to be the clock sergeant and keep you each to 1 minute on this next response so that we have a few minutes to talk about our best practices going forward. So starting with you, Rajsri, 1 minute. We've all navigated various setbacks and challenges throughout our careers in this industry. Can you talk a little bit about that and share the learnings with the rising stars that we've got in the audience? 1 minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would just tell you this. Superwomen exist only in movies. There are no superwomen or Wonder Women in real world. It is completely fiction. We as women, we try to be everything. We want to be the best daughter, the best wife, the best sister, the best friend, the best, whatever. And we also try to be the best manager, the best coworker, the best colleague, the best mentor, so on and so forth. The list is just endless, and we strive for perfection. So if you show me a piece of paper, with something written on it, the first thing that I will find out is how many grammar mistakes are there, in that paragraph, right? So we strive for perfection. We want to have control of everything. We want to go to bed at 12 o'clock, wake up at 4 o'clock, and work like a machine. But that is not going to happen. I learned it the very hard way. It is very, very important to understand what you can do and what you cannot do, what you can support and what you cannot support. So it is very important to understand and prioritize your time and delegate, what is possible. Build a support system both at home and at work. There are meetings, there are conflicting meetings. So me as a leader, I cannot be present in both of them. So I always look for someone else to proxy me in a meeting, which I can afford to skip and get the minutes of the meeting later.
I love that.
So, you can't do it all. Delegate, build your support system. Don't try to be a superwoman.
Thanks so much. All right, 1 minute, Jang.
Okay, takeaways for me will be being resilient and staying focused. Excel in what you do. So I always believe in doing what you love and love what you do. That's very important. And have discussions with your sponsors and mentors for career guidance. Always be curious and try to learn new things because every day is different. Being a Chinese as well is embracing change and be like a bamboo. Be flexible because I think like Rajsri, you can't be in 2 meetings at the same time. So either you delegate, be flexible, and go with the flow at certain times. And finally, having respect of different views and opinions, being open. And I think that's very important to share beliefs and respect each other.
All great takeaways. Last but not least, Niha.
I think, and especially for women who are still at a very nascent stage of their career, what I would like to urge, and this, again, I learned it in a very hard way as well, is that it's okay to not know everything. There will be challenges, there will be new tasks thrown at you at every stage of life or every stage of career. But it's okay to not know everything, yet be comfortable and confident with what you know. And we will learn during the journey. So it's fine. Give it a try. Give it a shot. Let's not wait for you to know every bit of it and then start. So give it a shot and take a plunge. So that has been a learning for me. And I would urge everyone in the audience and who are still at a nascent stage of their career to please follow that as well.
I love that, the concept of be comfortable being uncomfortable and no career growth without discomfort, getting out of your comfort zone. We've had some fabulous insights from this panel today. Thank you so much for sharing. I love the KPIs. I love the ideas of the return to work programs, the support for women at all levels. We can champion the fact that we've got perhaps, hopefully, equal numbers at the entry levels of our organizations, but what do those levels look like as we get into the mid-levels and certainly the leadership level of our organizations? Ideally, we should be targeting for 50-50 at all levels. That would be the ideal, then I wouldn't have a job anymore, which wouldn't be a bad thing. But until we get there, I will continue to survive and pursue and support forums like this where we can have this discussion. Thank you so much for your input. I'm going to now turn over to the audience. We've got a few minutes left for questions. Does anybody have any questions? Please go ahead.
So firstly, I'd like to take a moment to commend you all to reach the top 3%. Like Niha pointed out, there's a lot of leakage. So congratulations. And secondly, my question is to you, Ms. Rajsri. You pointed out that after COVID, employees are more value conscious and value driven. What do you think, has caused that shift? What may be, the factors driving that?
Yes, we find this value. See, we all went through something called as the Great Resignation, soon after the Delta wave when COVID got over, right? What happened and why did that happen? People started realizing that, life is short and it is very, very important, to take risks and try and try a new career or try a new job, right? So that made a lot of people, to change the way they are looking at their career, to change the way that they are looking at their current job, their career growth that they have had, their ambitions on where to go. And a lot of people started to move away, right, to take the plunge of working in a different organization, in a different environment, maybe at a better compensation. I mean, we all work for monetary benefits at the end of the day. So that triggered, for sure. And for some people, we found that, they wanted to not be part of the corporate rat race, if you will, right? I mean, people wanted to spend time with their families. People wanted to spend time with themselves. People wanted to do what they actually wanted to do. So we saw both type of shifts, right? We saw loyal employees just thinking that enough is enough. I guess it is time for me to move on and moving, which triggered the Great Resignation. And we also saw a lot of people who wanted to take a step back, from the rat race. I mean, not work 24/7, not be, digitally online, during weekdays and weekends. And they wanted little more family time, me time. So both of this, put together, brought in a difference in the way employees started looking at their career and their workplace. And the new generation of employees that I spoke about, right? I mean, the young guys like you, your food, clothing, and shelter is guaranteed by your parents. There is no need for you, to work for money. So people like you are more focused on working for value, the quality of work. Am I working in a friendly atmosphere? Am I getting opportunities to learn? Can I, is this an inclusive and a flexible environment? So a lot of things have contributed. I mean, pandemic is definitely a shapeshifter for the talent, if you will. And, the Gen Zs that are coming into the workforce, definitely you are creating a very significant disruption in the workplace.
Thank you. Great question.
All right.
I think,
yes.
do we have time for one more?
Maybe one last question.
All right. Please, go ahead.
Thank you for sharing all the insights there. We at Lively are building something specific for urban women in India, still in stealth. My question is, I want to build an all-women team. Should I go for that? And what are the implications on diversity from the other perspective if I do that?
Thank you for that question. If I might start it off, my perspective is an all-women team is not a diverse team. So you want, some diversity across the team, and that's diversity across many different strands. Not only gender diversity, but diversity in age, diversity in experience, diversity in background, be it ethnic or different types of experience, what they bring to the table, so that when you can, and that helps you build an open forum for discussion to invite all different perspectives when you're building products, when you're making decisions, when you're managing risk. And that diversity helps you build stronger products, that'll support more diverse stakeholders and more diverse customer ranges, as well as manage risks and perhaps help you even think outside of that regular box. Any
Some men in your team, they will give you an outsider perspective.
All right, I think with that, we'll call it a wrap. Please put your hands together for our esteemed panelists, our moderator, and you, our audience. It's been quite interesting and some lovely takeaways that we all are going to take away today from them having shared their expertise. So thank you once again.